Howdy y'all, it's Russell back, and on today's video I'm going to show you how to flush your power steering system. The vehicle that we're going to be using is a 1989 Chevy K1500, and what I'm going to show you is going to be pretty much applicable to any power steering system that uses hydraulic fluid, power steering fluid, ATF fluid. The only thing it will not apply to, obviously, are some of the newer cars or trucks that have electric steering. Real quick, why do you even want to do this? Well, power steering fluid cools, it lubricates, and it holds in suspension the contaminants and the wear materials that naturally are going to occur both in the steering box or steering rack and the power steering pump. Now, if you don't remove these fluid or these contaminants from the fluid, because most power steering systems don't have a filter. Some of the higher end cars do, and things like over-the-road tractors, trailers and stuff, they have power steering filters. But I would suggest, and what I've always followed, my practice is that you need to remove the fluid at least once a year. And I have never had a problem with a power steering system, either the seals going bad or the excessive wear on the pump or steering rack because of fluid. So pretty much I always have clean fluid in the system. So it's very important to do that. It is very cheap because power steering fluid is probably one of the cheapest fluids that you can buy. And it doesn't take a lot because there's not a lot in the system. So with that being said, I'm going to reset the camera. I'm going to show you how to do this job. It's not hard at all, and it will produce a lot of benefits, and keep your power steering system alive and trouble-free for a long time. All right, so on this particular model, the power steering reservoir and pump assembly is right here. If you've got a General Motors vehicle and you have a similar setup, it may be here, it could be on the other side. If you have a completely different car, like on the Volkswagen, the actual pump and reservoir was up here, it doesn't matter. What you want to do, number one, is you want to remove the cap, and you want to take some kind of evacuator like this. I've got a Mighty Mite, and just stick this down in there and extract as much fluid from the reservoir as you can. All right, I've already done this, and by doing this you're going to remove about 30% of the contaminated fluid, and then what you want to do is refill it back up with regular your whatever power steering fluid that you use. And I'm going to show you how to determine which of the two hoses is your high line, your high pressure, and your return line. So if you will notice on, if I can get the camera zoomed in here, you'll notice that there are two lines on the back of the pump. So your high pressure line is usually going to have a fitting, a crimped fitting, both on the pump side and on the either the steering rack or the steering gearbox side. Your low pressure line probably will have a crimped fitting on the gearbox side, but it will have a regular, some type of either a spring clamp or a, like this one, call them radiator clamps. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking for the low pressure or return side. Now, oftentimes this hose right here will be the one that's highest up on the reservoir. Not always, but like in this case, they're pretty much equal. They're level, but this is the hose that we're going to be disconnecting, and I'm going to show you how to do that next. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the clamp from the return side. I've got a catch pan underneath, but I've also got one of these pig pads, and it will absorb any of the fluid that comes out. Okay. So some systems, a lot of General Motors systems use transmission fluid as the power steering fluid. Some of them don't. This one basically could use either. I have transmission fluid in here so you can see in a minute the contrast that you'll get when you're actually pumping the fluid out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you we have to put a splice in here with a hose going down to the drain pan, and I'll show you what we're going to use next. All right, so what I've got here is, because my hose is a 3/8 inside diameter hose, I've got a barb splice right here, and I've got some 3/8 diameter inside diameter hose. So I'm just going to push that in there like that, and I'm going to run this hose down to where my catch pan is below the truck. Okay, so that's pretty much all we need to do. At this point, I'm going to show you the method that we're going to use, which is called the non-engine running method, that will pump all of the fluid out of the reservoir. It'll pump it out of the gearbox, the lines, the hoses, and everything. And with the clear hose, you're going to see the contrast from the old fluid to the new fluid. All right, so I have the hose in here. I've got a plug right here so that it's fluid doesn't come out of, dribble out of there on the reservoir. And I'm just going to take some, I'm just using some regular power steering fluid that will work for this vehicle. And I'm going to fill the reservoir up. All right, and what I'm going to do is I've jacked the vehicle off the ground, so both front wheels are off. And I'm going to turn the steering wheel back and forth, lock to lock. And as I do that, you'll see that it will pump out the fluid. Now this method is called the non-engine running method. Let me adjust the camera a little bit, the wheel's hitting it. This is the non-engine running method. And the reason that I like doing this is because there's no chance that the pump itself will become damaged. And I'm going to make sure that the reservoir doesn't run out. There is a little bit in the bottom. All right, so as you saw from the second camera I had down there, pretty much everything is clear now. If you look inside the reservoir, that's clear. And that's pretty much it. The only thing left to do is to reattach the return hose, fill it back up. And then what you want to do is you want to have the tires off the ground, like I've got here, and cycle it 15 or 20 turns lock to lock to make sure there's no air in there. Crank it up, make sure you have no leaks, and you're good to go. So the next video I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to install a filter. Since I already have this off, that'll be another video, but I'm going to show you how to install a power steering filter in the return hose so you can keep any debris that accumulates in the fluid from the time that you flush it from flush to flushed. And it'll it's a magnetic filter. It will keep the fluid clean and it'll prevent any wear, excessive wear from either the pump or the steering box. With that being said, guys, I appreciate it. Please subscribe if you haven't done so, and I will see you on the next video.